Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. This time we'll be taking a look at the Sacred Seal tier list update. This should have been last month, but last month I was more or less flooded with work and therefore I decided to move it to this month. Which turned out to be, well, how can I put this? It's going to become a long-term thing. When I decided to make, Sacred Seal tier list updates a bi-monthly things, that was back when we were only getting 3 seals per Tempest Trial. Now we only get 2, so to balance with this, I'm going to move this to a every 3 months, so I guess a seasonal thing. And yeah. So let's get started, eh? So, starting up as per usual, seals that have been added with, that have been added to the Forge that were not in the Forge in my last video. Deathblow and Deathfeint are now in the Forge. Funny enough, Deathblow is breaking convention in a sense, because normally every seal of one set would have the same starting cost. Deathblow decided, nah, not me. It's actually costing 40 Sacred Seal. I have a feeling this is an error, because every other blow seal are 20, every stance seal, including Pure Stance, is 20, and so on and so forth. So the fact that it costs twice the amount to create it is kind of odd. I genuinely do not understand why that's the case, for Deathblow only in particular. But, oh well. It's kind of just like how they forgot that speed is blue. Like, blue seals are typically based off of speed. And they made Wind Boost, as you can see right here, a green seal for no reason. If you don't believe me, just go in game, you'll see just as well that it is in fact a green seal for literally no reason. But yeah. I don't know what to say about this, but anyway, let's talk about the seals that have actually been added. So first off is Sorcery Blade. Also, I'm not talking about adding them chronologically, but rather which one is worst to which one is best. Though keep in mind, if seals are in the same tier, it is subjective. Which seal is the best between the bunch, because it depends on your playstyle, it depends on your unit, and obviously, in general, seals in general are subjective. But yeah, moving on. Sorcery Blade is the first one. Now you might wonder why I consider Sorcery Blade to be this low, considering, what it is. But you have to realize we're getting stronger and stronger seals, right? Sorcery Blade is inconsistent in how much it helps. Only infantry unit can use it. And really, outside of Lloyd, who has a weapon more or less built around Sorcery Blade, because he needs to have a mage adjacent to him. And he's an infantry unit, so he works really well with this. Since, you're going to want to fulfill the requirement of his weapon to begin with, right? So, same logic. The problem, though, is even Lloyd would rather run a different seal, which is obviously Attack Death Bond, because it fixes his defense somewhat and still helps his damage. Especially with the fact that we are in a meta nowadays where mixed bulk is very common, in which case Sorcery Blade loses a lot of steam. Honestly, Sorcery Blade could have been a seal from the start, and would have seen some use back then. But now it's a bit too late for that, and it's clear they kind of realized that too. Overall, it's an okay seal to get. It's an okay seal to work on, but outside of Lloyd, it's very iffy. Again, also because of other units such as Aversa and Yago. Both units are very good and very, well, not exactly common. Aversa is still somewhat common in AR. And just completely invalidates this from working, as it's not within 2 space, but only adjacent, which is kind of a bad move in my opinion. Should have been within 2 space. Anything that requires you to be adjacent to something else can be very awkward to work with in a lot of ways. Even bond seals are not exactly safe from this, although they are a bit more safe because you can actually combo, you know, aerobatic into bonds, which makes them work pretty well. Sorcery Blade could still work, admittedly, if you had, how's it called? Air Order and Ground Order. Well, really, Ground Order, because infantries can't fly. But, yeah, if you have Air Order to support yourself, it could work, admittedly. But even then, it's just a lot. It's just too much setup to really play around. So you can't really use it multi-phase, despite the fact that the effect is multi-phase, which makes the skill a bit awkward. Hence why it is where it is. Honestly, I might even put it a tier lower down the line. I am not too sure. Moving on next to Brazen Speed Res. Now you might be wondering, why is Brazen Speed Res this low? It's a pretty decent seal, no? Yes and no. The problem with Brazen skills, and the reason why Brazen Attack Res and Brazen Attack Def are objectively better than Brazen Attack Speed, is the fact that if you need to rely on a seal for speed, okay? If you need to rely on a seal for speed, the problem you run into is not having enough speed at the start. So what ends up happening is you can just get doubled before the Brazen comes off. This is kind of a big problem, and also Speed Res Solo being released doesn't really help its case whatsoever. It's a good multi-phase option in certain cases, but it's also requiring setup. And until the setup is complete, you can be extremely weak. It's the same logic as having a Vantage tank, right? But you're dealing with infantry pulse units, which all have special to one-shot you, and you're just sitting there like, what do I even do, you know? It's the same logic. There's not much you can really work with here. So, yeah, as a result, obviously, overall, when you look at this, it makes the seal a bit inconsistent. When it works, it works. When it doesn't, it's disastrous. That's basically what it is. And please do not tell me in the comment, oh, but I can rely on Ardent Sacrifice or what is the other one? Reciprocal Aid? These seals are never worth working with, ever. I do really mean this. They take too much setup, and you need to basically get to the point of turn, like, what, 3 or 4 to have any kind of sense to be using this. It's not good. It's just not good. So that's why it's fairly iffy overall. But yeah, it's still a decent seal to get. Again, though, it's low. It's definitely at a lower priority overall. Moving on to Speed Def Bond. Now, Speed Def Bond is a pretty decent one. It's the same. It's definitely around the same vein as Speed Res Bond, and in some cases, Speed Res Bond is obviously better. Def tends to be a bit more useful than Res because, well, let me just put it this way: most of the big threats nowadays hit defense. The only threat I can really think of that really hits Res, outside of Infantry Pulse Team, Ophelia, and so on, and Sonia in AR, the only thing that actually hits Res from that are very dangerous are something like Winter Sophis, and that's kind of it. That's the only magic. Also, Legendary Celica. But yeah, so Res tends to be a bit less useful. As far as the Res goes, it's still fairly iffy. Bond seals are overall just completely inferior to solo seals, however, as you can see just with the fact that Speed Res Solo is literally 3 tier above Speed Res Bond. Not having to deal with the Aversa weakness is a big one, but also on top of it, just, you know, having a better multi-phase potential. Because the thing is, you can enemy phase pretty easily with Speed Res Bomb, you just have to space your units. But you can also initiate very easily with this, the solo effect active, again, very easily. You can't do either of these things with a well, you can do the enemy phase with a Bond Seal, but it can be awkward. Let me just explain. If you do not kill a unit and you have a Bond set, what typically happens is the unit that you fail to kill gets danced. Because you are in a Bond setting, if it's a ranged unit, it means it can also hit the unit behind you. This is a problem, because then it means that the unit that you are adjacent to, because you want the 5 def and speed, gets most likely killed, butchered, and so on and so forth. So it can be very awkward to work with. And also, again, Aversa, Iago, I think I've already mentioned this enough, but I'll mention it again. It can definitely be fairly iffy. So, anyway, moving on to Even Speed Wave. Even Speed Wave is a decent one, for two reasons. You might be wondering, why is Even Attack Wave below Even Speed Wave? It's because even in this day and age, getting a speed buff is so much harder than any other buff. Let me explain. So, when it comes on to speed buff, the main buff that you would want to have is Speed Tactic. You have one seal for that. If you're doing AA, you need more than one buff in speed, typically. So that's kind of awkward to really rely on Speed Tactic, right? The other problem is the fact that Speed Tactic is not easily obtainable. Def Tactic is obtainable from Mustafa. Attack Tactic is available from the Gold, which is why even Attack Wave is definitely lower. Rest Tactic is obtainable from La Rochelle, though you need to 5-star her. And Speed Tactic was available from Summer Loot. If you didn't have any Summer Loot that you kept for fodder, you're kind of in a very awkward predicament, because you can't really work with this. So, as a result, Even Speed Wave is a bit better. The other reason is because low attack def is the most consistent B skill you'll run across in Arena, in AA, and to some extent AR, but AR doesn't really use low skill all that much. So if you deal with a low attack def user, then your wave in attack is absolutely and completely worthless. Not all the time, but all the time. That's kind of a problem. So Even Speed Wave is a more consistent option as a result. Not by much, because low attack speed is still used, by Duo Ulm. But then again, Duo Ulm is not someone you really want to trifle with, so unless you're Tharja and you have a lot of speed, and that he doesn't have low attack speed, you won't really be doing much to him. Ulm has always been very dangerous overall, so that does help him a lot. But still, it's a decent seal to have for, say, Infantry Blade Tomes, where having buffs is not exactly as easy, because, well, let me just put it this way. Having tactics on a team with just one Infantry Blade Tome, and then a Dancer, and then you have to have non-infantry units for the other two, can prove to be very awkward, because most of the very good units are infantry, so it can definitely screw you over to some extent, unless you make team around it. So yeah, it can be fairly awkward. Still, it's an overall decent seal. Not the most amazing seal of the S tier, but definitely a seal you should consider purely for Blade Tome purposes. I know I might actually upgrade mine just for Lint. Obviously, the other issue with wave skills in general, and why I consider waves to be complete garbage, and the fact that we still have new kits using those garbage skills, which just makes me physically ill to see. is the fact that they only work all the time, so they are not exactly perfectly reliable as a result. So obviously, stuff like Speed Tactic, which are reliable, will definitely be better, and if there was a tier above S plus tier, Speed Tactic would be in that tier. That is how important speed buffs are. So yeah. Moving on to Mirror Strike. Considering the placement, I've put Sturdy Blow and Mirror Strike comes to no surprise. It just depends on what type of bulk your unit has. Because at the end of the day, attack is always a sure value to get. Res is there to basically fix the stat that you might have a problem with. And Def is there for if the other way around is happening. So obviously Mirror Strike is a very good seal. Definitely a seal worth upgrading just because it is so cheap. For example, getting Death Blow from scratch to max is 190 coins. Getting Mirror Strike to max is 100. It's like off. It's ridiculous. So it's very cheap to get, to upgrade rather. To get, it's gonna be most likely 140. So obviously, if you missed it, it's a different story. But right now, it is a very good seal in general. Very affordable and very decent overall. This is kind of why I consider like Swift Sparrow, Mirror Strike, and Sturdy Blow better than Death Blow, because at the cost of 2 attack you can fix something you struggle with. So yeah, it's a very good seal overall. And now moving on to Speed Res Solo, which I do think is better than Mirror Strike, but not quite as good as 30 Stance, because 30 Stance is a bit more consistent. Speed Res Solo. So actually, Speed Res Solo should have been before Mirror Strike. What am I even saying? My bad on that. But the point I'm trying to get across here is the fact that Speed Res Solo is very solid. It is an easy way to get speed points on your unit. Does not have any very difficult requirement. And honestly, like S tier or is like the lowest tier you'll see any of the solo skill ever being in. Because they are some of the most flexible skills you can have or work with. The only issue is if you are reliant on adjacent skill, obviously, so you can't really use this. Like for example, this seal is worthless if you're using Armor March. Wow, shocking. Do I have to tell you guys that? Probably not. Like, if you're going to use Armor March and Amelia, Speed Res Solo is not an option. If you are using Armored Stride, this is an option. Whoa, shocking how that works. But yeah, it's very obvious overall. It's a very solid seal. And units, there is one of the main reasons why it is as solid as it is the fact that we have a lot of units with good attack, good def, and then their speed and res are middling. This is a good way to fix this. For example, a great example of a unit would be Altena. If you are not using aerobatic / fly formation, because in which case you should use Speed Res Solo, Speed Res Bond, sorry. Speed Res Solo here would be amazing, because Altena's res seems trash until you realize that their weapon reduces the enemy's attack by 5. So you jump up by basically 5 res, then you get 6 res from this. My Altena, right now with Speed Res Bond, at plus 10, not res plus, hits 45 res with a buff. I think that kind of sums it up. It is very, very easy to just fix a unit with low res with this kind of skill. Another unit that's worth considering also is like base Crom, if you plan on using something else than is Bond Falchion. So for example, this is a good idea if you want to use Sealed Falchion. Because Sealed Falchion, the problem with it is obviously you need to have fought, basically, to have taken some damage for it to function. Speed Res Solo does not require your HP to be down on top of it, because there's a lot of people out here that are going to be like, hey, Brazen Speed Res combos into Sealed Falchion, therefore I should be using this to fix his speed and res. Please do not do that. This is a stupid idea. Why would you do this? Because at that point you have 10 less speed. You have 11. No. Yeah, 12 speed that is basically frozen in time until you find a unit that's slow enough to not kill you. Have fun with that one. However, if you have Speed Res solo, it's a bit more forgiving. Obviously, Sealed Potion's a bit unwieldy still, but it's pretty workable overall as a result. But yeah, Altana can also fix her speed as long as you have Joint Drive Speed to combo into Speed Res solo and Speed Plus, you can actually fix her speed. I believe mine, if I had Speed Res solo instead, because I use Fly Formation because I combo her with Resplendent Minerva, if I were to use Speed Res solo, mine would hit 50 speed. Again, very easy to work with. So yeah, overall a very, very good seal to have. A lot of unit can pretty much make use of this without, you know, obviously having to go through like many hoops to have a multi-phase effect. Yes, Speed Res Bond is an effect that can actually work. The problem is it's not exactly as multi-phase as most people would like. You can combo this into, again, Air Orders, but Speed Res Solo does not need such a premium skill and specific team comp to work. Note also that Speed Res Solo can combo into Brave Lucina very easily. So obviously solos are insanely good as a result, because it just basically means you have no drawback whatsoever for all the benefits. So yes. Now I'm gonna move on to Sturdy Stance. Sturdy Stance, just like Mirror Stance, is out there. Kestrel Stance is the only one, spoiler alert, that won't be an S+ tier if that ever becomes a seal. Sturdy Stance, for the same reason as Mirror Stance, is fairly solid. It basically allows you to have more attack on enemy phase, while also increasing your defense. And Fierce Stance is better for Vantage sets, but at the same time, if you have already used Fierce Stance, this is a good alternative, just like Mirror Stance is. Not like it's a bad seal in general, it's a fantastic seal, it's just, you know. Obviously, depending on the situation, you might prefer Attack Death Bond over Sturdy Stance or Sturdy Blow. It also depends on the type of unit. A flyer will prefer Bond seals always, because they have access to Aerobatic, Flyer Formation, and those skills are not exactly that difficult to get. Except Aerobatic. I'm not too sure because I keep killing Scattered Fang Nino because she is my #1 stalker. I believe I got at least 10 of her off banner at this point. It's getting ridiculous. But yeah. That aside, I'm not too sure about Aerobatic, but if it's not yet in the Grail pool, it's most likely going to be eventually. But yeah, overall, a very simple and straightforward seal. I don't think I have much to say about it. It's just a very good seal overall. And then the last, but also the best, Speed Tactic. I've already kind of touched upon this one. This one is very easy to really understand. It's a seal that just buffs speed, right? Tactics team are basically some of the strongest team of this game, even to this day. I still don't understand how we don't have this in the pool yet, but then again, Quick Riposte is still up to 5-star promotion this late in the game. So is Resploy for that matter. So is Attack Ploy for that matter. Oh wait, GHB, but you know, the GHB that came out like 3 years ago, no, more like 2.5, has it at 4-star, but oh boy, the new 3 to 4-star unit we got like 4 years in has it locked at 5. That doesn't feel greedy at all. No, not at all. Tangent aside, Speed Tactic can work on several teams and can help unit with a lesser bit of speed actually function a lot more. It can also ensure your speed to be consistent, especially when in tandem with something like Spurn. I'm not going to say Repel or Close Call because those skills are literally just lesser version of Spurn. There is no reason to ever use Close Call / Repel over Spurn. None. Like, the only reason I've been told is basically Ooh, but you can use the knockback effect as a Galaxy Brain thing in AR defense, and all I have to say to this is, but why though? Imagine foddering a skill this premium to push an enemy unit into a ball trap. Wow. I mean, that's Galaxy Brain, yes, but I mean, it's also very awkward to work with. So, obviously, not exactly the best point to sell a skill, is it? Overall, Speed Tactic is, again, a very cheap option, works really well, can be comboed also into certain characters that have a tactic skill in their weapon, like for example, Titania can now use Attack Tactic, Speed Tactic, and Rest Tactic all at once, which is pretty solid overall. You can also give this to your dancers, which is what most people will do, honestly, having Attack Tactic and Speed Tactic on their dancer, especially Raisin, because he is not an actual infantry unit, so you can actually combo him into infantry units pretty easily. Blade Tomes take great use of this, though again, keep in mind, low skills are becoming more and more common, and therefore Blade Tomes are starting to lose a lot of steam, so, you know. I mean, that's kind of a given at this point. I just really wish, personally, I just really wish, I just wish low skills were not infantry skills, but rather horse only, as it should have been, but then they decided, infantry unit underpowered! Literally nobody believes this. Why? But whatever. I guess that's kind of what you have to expect from IS these days. But yeah, I believe that's all I have to say about Speed Tactic. It's a very simple seal. I don't think I have to go too in detail in it. So, yeah. So that was all my thoughts when it came down to this entire banner overall. There's really not much to say other than this. It is a very straightforward batch outside of Sorcery Blade, Brazen Speed Res, and I guess to some extent Speed Def Bond and Speed Res Solo, because people tend to overestimate speed a lot. So, you know. With that said, I believe I've said everything I wanted to say here, and I'm gonna see you all in the comment or on the legendary hero banner analysis, because obviously not everyone will care too much about this video. After all, seals. It's seals. I mean, if you understand how a skill is used, most people don't care about the rest. So yeah. But yeah, with that said, I'm gonna see you all later. Have a nice rest of the day, everyone. See ya.